Joe Biden issues an executive order about 3 weeks ago now, and it is ostensibly basically rolling out. I don't know what you would call it, an antitrust agenda, I guess. And I wanted to get your take on it because, well, let me just broadly ask you this question. You've started to see the personnel, right? That he has put in, and you started to see these executive orders, or at least, these. Where do you think we are relative to what you would have anticipated or hoped under a Biden administration on, on the question of antitrust?
Yeah, so this executive order is about dealing with corporate power, generally speaking, and corporate power which usually manifests itself when corporations get too big and control markets. Corporate power increases prices that people pay for things like medicine or various other cable, whatever. They lower wages, because if you have fewer employers, they don't have to bid for your services. They reduce the quality of products and goods. They increase regional inequality. It's a really big problem. Make our food less safe and so on and so forth. So it's this really big problem. And what Biden did is he said, I'm going to have not just the antitrust agencies, which are the agencies that are specifically tasked with the laws that deal with monopolies, the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, but I'm going to have, he said he's going to have the whole government, right? The Food and Drug Administration, the Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, all of them use whatever legal authority they can to address the problem of corporate power. So where is Biden on this agenda, broadly speaking? I'm surprised. He's done, I think, a lot. He's put people that are a lot better than I assumed when he was elected. He was elected, and we had I did a bunch of interviews to find out how he would govern. And basically what people said is he's more populist than you think. He's not, he's not FDR, but he doesn't trust elites, and he doesn't trust big corporations. He just kind of used them to fundraise from Delaware and then do what he really was interested in, which was foreign policy. So, that was a little bit surprising to hear because his voting record is not great. But I did see him when he was questioning Stephen Breyer in the 90s, just be kind of like, you're too enthralled to economics, which was surprising to see Biden saying that. Biden's picked a bunch of people for the antitrust world, Lena Khan to be the head of the Federal Trade Commission, which is an antitrust enforcer, and now Jonathan Cantor, who's an antitrust lawyer, to run the Department of Justice antitrust division. These are well-known foes of concentrated corporate power, particularly big tech, but not limited to big tech. They also have, Lena has done a lot of work on everything from candy consolidation to airlines to pharmaceuticals to seasoned chemicals, firms like Monsanto. So it's really surprising that he picked them. And then this executive order, which was authored in many ways by Tim Wu, who's another antitrust scholar who works at the White House, kind of amplifies what he's trying to do. So it's surprising to me, and I think a good sign.
And for a long... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Do you want me to interrupt as well?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
I was just going to say, not only did Lena Khan get appointed to the FTC, but then she was made chairwoman, which I thought was really, I thought that was a really strong signal.
Yeah, I mean, Lena's 32. She is well known as a progressive, very strong credentials, sort of probably the world's expert on antitrust law as it relates to Amazon. And has some incredible track record. Was an investigator for the House Antitrust Subcommittee when they did a big research project into Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. And her work has reverberated all over the world. So then Biden picks her to be on the FTC, and she gets, she's a progressive, but she gets 21 Republican votes in the Senate for her confirmation because Republicans are fed up with big tech as well. And then Biden moves to make her chair, which is kind of a little, surprising and actually, suggests that Biden, and I think some of the key people around him, like Brian Deese and Ron Klain, Jake Sullivan, and Bruce Reed, these are sort of inner circle types. They do think that competition policy is actually foundational and important to what Biden wants to do.
I wanted to ask you about this Jonathan Cantor appointment, because I think for a while, a lot of people who were encouraged by, say, the Lena Khan pick, right, and the fact that she's completely triggered the Wall Street Journal editorial board, they're writing about her on a daily basis, it seems like, they were worried that enforcement wasn't going to be made a priority because that post had been left vacant for quite a while. But there's encouragement given the response, I guess, and what progressives say about Cantor. So what's your take on that?
Right. So Cantor, antitrust is weird because it's not, I'm come from the left, as you guys well know, but it isn't really a left issue. Progressives generally ignore it. They don't really care about corporations. It's not that they're for them or anything. It's not really part of their worldview that corporations matter. And on the right, you have a similar dynamic. And now there are debates on both sides about to what extent these are meaningful questions. But Cantor is, some progressives liked him a lot and wanted him to be in this position. But Cantor, unlike Lena, is a well-respected antitrust lawyer who's been doing it for decades. And, he's defended big corporations. He's gone after them both at the FTC and then as a private attorney. And he's on all the committees with the fancy lawyers, he knows them. So he's got a lot of fans kind of across the spectrum. This is not a sort of going to offend the antitrust establishment the way that that Lena Khan offends the antitrust establishment. But what is, I think, exciting about Jonathan Cantor is that he does have a track record of taking on big tech, and he does see concentration as a foundational political and economic problem. So we're excited about him, and I think that's kind of why you see the progressives who pay attention to the problem of monopoly are excited about him. Conservatives like him too, and there's a bunch of people across the commercial society who think highly of him. So, yeah.
One house cleaning note: just watch your microphone. I think it's brushing up against your shirt there. And,
sorry about that.
No worries. And we should say, and I want to just touch on one more sort of like personnel issue as well. But we should say that the part of the reason why we're talking about personnel so much is that, to a large extent, and we've had you on, we've discussed this with you, and we've had Lena Khan on a couple of times, I think back in 2012 and 2014, and
name drop.
Yeah, there we go. That's and many others talking about. So I think the audience is aware of the shift in antitrust, not so much law, but really just disposition in this country since the Reagan era with Bork, and this change in perspective on what was problematic and what one should do about antitrust at that time. And the laws on the book are more or less there. It really comes down to the disposition of the administration, and we see that reflected in the personnel that they appoint. Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.